This video is going to be the first of 3 showing you how to make a game like Frogger using the microbit and the MakeCode software. So what we're going to cover in this video is moving the LED around that is going to represent the frog. In the second video, we're going to go into making sort of the car or multiple cars that drive across. And then in the third video, we're going to put them all together and sort of keep score and do some of those final pieces. So what we need to do in this video is essentially use variables to control our LED. So I'm going to start by making 2 variables, and I'm going to name them frog X for the X position of our frog, and make another one called frog Y for the Y position of our frog. What I'll do is in the forever, I will have that be plotted. So we will plot the X and Y positions of our frog using those variables that we just made. So right now that should show up in the 0, 0 position of my LEDs over here. So what I really want to do is have it start in the middle at the bottom. So I'll have that get resolved in my onStart. So I'll set my variables to those 2 different coordinates. So remember, the X is the right to left. That's going to be over at 2, being halfway across our screen right to left, and the Y is going to be all the way down at 4, meaning it's going to be the very bottom. So now when my program starts up, it sets those variables to 2 and 4, and then plots that point. I want to have it be a little intuitive, so when I push my B button, I want it to move to the right, and when my A button gets pressed, I want it to move to the left. So I'm going to drag out on A button pressed, duplicate it really quick to make a B button, and I will have these change my frog's X position. So A is going to change in the -1, and B is going to change in the +1. So let's see what that looks like. So I hit the B button, it should travel to the right. Hit the A button, it should travel to the left. Okay, so the problem that we're seeing there is that it doesn't erase the previous plotted point. So what I wanted to do is I wanted to, when I hit the A button, I wanted to unplot the current X and Y position, then change it, and then have the forever come back in and replot it. So I'm going to go to this unplot. I'm just going to copy the X and Y that are already up here. And I'm going to want this to happen in both my A button and my B button. So I'm just going to duplicate that. And that'll be a good chunk of our code kind of covered. Let's see what happens. Hit the B button. Right, so it's unplotting, changing the variable, and then my forever jumps in and replots it. And it works that way too. Now the problem with it set up as it is now is that if I keep going, it disappears off my screen. So I want to build in some sort of coding that prevents it from falling off the side of my screen so I don't lose it forever. And I think one of the best ways to do this is using a logic statement. So ultimately what I want it to do is when it goes to the left, I want it to work as long as my frog's X is not equal to 0. So if I get down here where X is 0, I want my A button to no longer work. Right? So I'm going to do, let's see what we got. If, I'll bring that out. So if, I'm going to do a comparison. Let's see, so if, let's bring this guy out. If my frog's X is greater than 0, then this button will work. So it's only going to work if I'm greater than 0. So it stops no matter how many times I click it. The B button goes the other way. I have to switch it because it still goes off that way. So I'm going to do a similar code over here. So this one, duplicate that chunk, bring it over. Let's see, we got this side, it's going to be the other way. So as long as it's less than 4, it should work, because remember 4 is my last LED over here. So let's see if that works. Right, so it stays on the screen to the left and to the right. So my frog no longer disappears, which is good. And it goes both directions. The last thing I want to do is have my frog be able to move forward. So I'm going to do very similar stuff here. So let's duplicate my A button, but switch it to A and B together. So if both buttons are pressed at the same time, I might not need this if statement, but I do want the unplotting. I don't want to change the frog's X. I want to change its Y by -1. What can I do here? Let's see, so if my frog's Y is greater than 0, then my button will work. So as soon as I get to my frog's Y being 0, it'll no longer work. So let's see if that works. There it goes. So it stays there. I can go to the right. I can go to the left. Let me restart it. I should be able to go all the way over here, all the way over there. Move up. Let's see. Can't go out over here. Good. So it looks like I can move this LED all across my screen. And it will not fall off the edge. Always stays visible. And then it's up there. So I don't really need to worry about returning it home, because I'm going to write a mechanic in probably stage 3 or step 3 that when it gets to this top row, basically I made it across the road without getting hit by a car, and I get a point and it resets itself. So I don't need a button to bring the frog back. If I wanted to, I have like some shake commands or other inputs I could use that might reset it or bring it back to the original spot. But for now, this works very well at moving my frog around. All right, tune in for the next video and you'll see step number 2, which is making a car that drives across the road.